How's it going, everyone? Chris from Locked On Avalanche here. A special episode for you guys today. We got a message from Mike over at the Blue Note podcast, which is a St. Louis Blues podcast for the hockey writers. They sent us a message, asked us if we want to come on the show, talk some Avs, what to expect for next year. Obviously talked a lot about last year and the Stanley Cup final. So we went on that show, had a good time, and we're going to present it to you guys now. Enjoy.
You're Locked On Avalanche, your daily podcast on the Colorado Avalanche. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Blues fans. So we are going to take some time here this week, and we're going to discuss the Colorado Avalanche. We are joined with the guys here from Locked On Avalanche, Chris Maselli and Kyle Sullivan. Boys, how are we doing this evening?
We're good. One day closer to camp. So one day closer to camp, one day closer to September, one day closer to football
Actual
season.
news.
I mean, it's like the fall season is ahead of us. This is a good time. Yeah.
Oh,
That's awesome.
come on, Chris. Don't
Yeah.
rush through our days with the cup, man. Let's savor it just
I
a
know.
little bit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that lasts for, a full hockey season as well. You can't take that away until somebody else is crowned. So
True.
we can run with that for a little while too. Yeah.
Yeah. That's something we don't really want to. We had our time. That's all good.
True.
We got
It's
our
true.
one.
Yeah.
So I'm good here with that. So just some brief introductions here for you guys. Let's just tell the fans here a little bit here about you. Are you guys from the Colorado area? Where did you guys really kind of get started? Just brief introductions here for you guys.
No, neither one of us live in Colorado, believe it or not. I born and raised in the New York area, and more upstate, more near like the Albany area. And for me, I've told this story many times on the Locked On Avalanche show, but I still am a Denver Broncos fan. I grew up a Denver Broncos fan thanks to John Elway and Tecmo Super Bowl when I was a kid. And I just, that was my team when I played that game. So I became a Broncos fan. And I always had, like, my dad was a big Rangers fan, New York Rangers fan. And so that was kind of like my team. And then when Quebec moved to Denver and they became the Avalanche, I was like, well, I'm a Broncos fan. And Avalanche is an awesome name. So I might as well go with that. And then they win the cup in the first season. And then it's really easy to stay a fan after you've newly anointed yourself as a fan of a team that just won the cup. So, and it's just, just going through the years with them, it's, for me, I just feel like it's meant to be. They're just like, I picked the right team, I should say. Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I think it's fair.
I grew up in the hockey hotbed of Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
And I fell in love with the team around the same time Chris did. Like, I was around like 7 years old, and you see those like Waugh, Forsberg, and Sakic on TV. Like, they're like superstars. So I fell in love with the team then, and I've had to follow the game the best I could through like the Super Nintendo version of NHL Stanley Cup and like the EA Sports video games. And I would stat track that way and pay attention to every game I possibly could. And the 2001 Stanley Cup came around, and those were the two teams that I fell in love with, New Jersey and Colorado. And that just sent my fandom into outer space. And I have followed the Avalanche closely ever since then. I went through like the NHL TV package year after year. Haven't missed an Avalanche game in years. So, like, I'm now in Northeast Pennsylvania. So, nowhere.
Okay.
I'm only getting farther from Denver.
And you're really just in a good territory here. Kind of I'm sure just like a mixture here of Pittsburgh fans, and I'm sure some Flyers fans here and whatnot, and maybe a little bit like a mixture of them. And so I'm sure you coming out here with your Avalanche jersey is like, who the heck is this guy?
I honestly, I have 2 kids, and when the Avs won the cup, we had a Stanley Cup parade down our street.
That's awesome.
And we have like Flyers fans across the street, and they're just like, "Hey, I'd do the same," and they
That's
just
awesome.
waving.
They had
That's
nothing to root
awesome.
for last year, so they might as well go with it. Yeah.
The Flyers are never winning a cup again, so gonna get that out there.
It's gonna be. You have to ask the question: will it happen in our lifetimes?
No.
Anything is possible, but they got a long road ahead of them.
Yeah. That's awesome. So, well, let's take a quick look back here just to last season here. The Avs were 59-19-7. I mean, like those are some NHL, like some EA Sports numbers here. 119 points. Of course, bounced the Blues here in the second round in a 4-2 series. A very, very impressive regular season. Fourth in the NHL with 3.76 goals for per game. I will say that's one spot behind the Blues. That's my only dig I'm going to be able to make here. 2.83 goals against average here per game, which was 10th in the NHL, 7th in the league here with a 24.01% power play, and 15th in the NHL on the PK at 79.66. Very impressive. 3 30-plus goal scorers in Rantanen, McKinnon, and Landeskog. 4 80-point or more players with, again, Rantanen leading the charge with 92, McKinnon at 88, Kadri 87, and Makar at 86. Let's take a quick look back. Thoughts on last season?
It was good.
I don't think any other way to describe it.
Yeah, I mean, it was. We said it on our show. Going up against Tampa, who was looking for their third in a row. The dynamic of fan bases when you're looking, and the difference of fan bases when you're looking for your third in a row. Compared to your first in 20 plus years, was so different. And for the Avs, it wasn't just that. It wasn't just that it's been 21 years since they won the cup. For the Avs, it was more recent with this team and getting out of the second round. That's been their dig on them. And it wasn't okay. If you get out of the second round, it's a success. That wasn't going to be okay. Like that's a plus. We can put a plus on this season. No, it's you got to win the whole thing. So to get out of that rut of not being able to get out of the second round and then go on to win it when it's been expected of you for the past 3 or 4 seasons that you should at least compete for a championship. And the fact that they hadn't sniffed the final to finally get there, I think getting there, if they hadn't won it, you could have been like, okay, like that was the next logical step. The next logical step was not getting to the conference finals. It was at least getting to the Stanley Cup championship. They got there. And then to win it, it was just so many things have been happening to this team with injuries and COVID, which, that creeps up on so many teams. But yeah, it was just a sense of relief. Because that's what they have been going for a handful of seasons, and to finally do it, I'm not gonna lie, it was emotional. It wasn't an emotional moment, but very, very well deserved.
Yeah, it was a finally kind of moment.
It really was. It really was. Yeah.
And honestly, what you want to summarize this past season as an Avalanche fan, it's a culmination of everything the Avalanche have been trying to put together for the past couple seasons.
Right.
Like you mentioned the goal scorers, and that's our top line. And for after that terrible season when they put up that series against Nashville and bounced Calgary the year after, this is the team. All they had was that top line. And you see the addition of like Cale Makar and how he contributes to this team. And we just won the Stanley Cup with Darcy Kemper as the goalie. Like,
nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, sure.
Sure. We'll go with that.
Like in the bubble, they had Hutchinson winning games. It was Grubauer, Francouz. Like they were going through goalies. And the Avalanche, the way they put this team together, it wasn't just one of those like nice tip of the cap, like Washington Capital runs. Like finally they did it. It's one of those that the Avalanche put this team together in a way that teams are going to start modeling their team after how they're built, because it's it's defense wins championships, and this defensive core, you talk about Nathan McKinnon, Mikko, Gabe Landeskog, what this defense was able to do, led by Cale Makar, quietly by Taze, I feel like this is where the NHL is going to be going in the next couple years.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's going to be hard to find another Cale Makar. I think
we already got his brother drafted, so
that's out. There you go. But this may be a sore subject for Blues fans talking about Nazem Kadri, but he's gone now, going to Calgary. Just the opinion of losing him among Avalanche fans.
It's believe it or not, it's more split down the middle than you would think. I think the guy who, put up the numbers that he did, like far and away exceeded anything he's ever done before that. Mm-hmm. You would think that most fans would want him back. And I think I should say this, they did want him back, but at the right price and at the right term. And I think if he went to Calgary for $7 million AAV, I think the Avs were in that ballpark. I don't think they were anywhere near 7 years, and I think that was the turning point for them. And because of that, as far as Avs fans go, I think I'll say maybe more. There's a higher percentage that obviously would want him back, but not at that term. So it's a little bit of like, okay, like I didn't want to give up that many years, but now you're coming down to production. And what do the Avs have to match his production? That is a big question. And no, the Avs, it's a big loss. I can't sit here and spin it in a way like, oh, they'll be okay. And they have these guys who could take his place and they'll be just fine. Sure, they would have loved to have him back, but they have this player that can match his production. They don't. They honestly don't. So there's guys that, you throw the potential word around all the time. Sure, they have that, but nothing that's proven. And for a Stanley Cup defending team, I'd much rather have somebody that's proven than a guy that could potentially break out this year. We don't know that. We genuinely don't know that. So no, they're not as good on the second line, whoever it may be that takes his spot, whether it's JT Compher or Alex Newhook. And it's like, okay, can they do it? Yeah. Could it be this year? We don't know.
Yep. I agree with all that. And especially with what Chris was saying about the term for Naz. We're seeing the swan song for, hey, former St. Louis Blue Eric Johnson. That contract was an albatross. We call him the Condor, but the contract is a sticking issue, especially when it comes to bringing back players like Naz. That contract, it was a subject conversation. Does Eric Johnson, does he go off into the sunset, walk away and free up $6 million to help put the team back together? And he decided to come back, which is great. That's fine. But the Avalanche were not about to do that again. They walked away from Darcy Kemper that we mentioned over money and term. So Sakic and McFarland are playing it kind of close to the chest. They know what they want to spend. They know what they need to have going into the trade deadline. So they let Naz walk. It's going to be a tough task, whether it's Newhook or JT Compher. It's going right out of the gate. You're not going to get that same production. Naz had an admittedly inflated year last year. That's what happens when you play in Colorado. Your numbers look great. But will he find that same success in Calgary? I don't know, because that's not the not this.
So it's like,
that is a good team.
I would like to see if he does come back down to earth a little bit. That's going to be interesting to watch. But asking either JT Compher or Newhook to do the same is a little bit much. So instead of trying to fill in the role for Naz, the Avalanche need to figure out what they can do and build on that, and not waste so much of the first quarter of the season trying to make another Naz.
Yeah, and that's fair. And honestly, not to go too far here, down the rabbit hole, it definitely seems like the Avalanche are kind of in the same situation here of sorts, with the Kadri situation really reminded me a lot of Blues fans with David Backes. They did not want to be able to give him, they wanted him back. They absolutely wanted him back, but it was at the right term, at the right price, and it was just the money that he wanted. The Blues were just not willing to be able to give up. And it was the same thing. They were totally worried and concerned about his production, especially the type of player that he is over the course of his career, and said, no, we're just not willing to be able to do it here at this point. So no, that makes complete sense. So you guys mentioned Alex Newhook. He and both JT Compher are guys here that I've got pegged just from the outside looking in that could be huge benefit factors now with Kadri gone. Of course, you've got like a guy like Lehkonen that could be able to really be able to step up here in a very, very big way. What do you guys see potentially coming from a guy like Newhook?
They have grand plans for Alex Newhook. I just feel like it's a little bit premature to expect him to put up some Kadri like numbers this year, and not even Nazem Kadri numbers of last year. Not in the 80 something range. Normal Nazem Kadri numbers. Like 50-60 range. I think it's a little bit premature. I think he's going to be the guy. He's just young. He's so young, and when we have guys like Cale Makar and even Gabe Landeskog and McKinnon, who all performed incredibly at that age, I think we're expecting Alex Newhook to do the same. And he's a different guy, and he's a different kind of player. And I don't think he's there yet. I think eventually he will be. That's why I feel like this year, going into this year, just gut feeling, unless Alex Newhook takes a giant leap forward, I think it's Compher's job to at least start the season for the 2C. I think it's his to start the season. Right. But we know what we're getting in JT Compher. He's been around long enough for us to know I'm not expecting Nazem Kadri numbers from him. So yeah, you can put him in that role and he can hold his own. He can do that and just rely on the other two guys on that line to really put up the numbers. But down the road, I think it's Alex Newhook's job. I just think he needs more time. He needs more experience in the NHL. And we always say this in the offseason anyway, he was healthy scratch during the postseason. So they're not going to go from him being a healthy scratch into him taking that 2C role. Yeah. I guess there's always a possibility of that happening, but if recent events hold true, like there's a reason why they did that. And, we'll see what happens in training camp in the preseason, but I think that's the way it's going to go right now. It could change. One thing Jared Bednar does is he changes lines all the time in game, game to game. So no, I don't think if JT Compher starts the season there, he's not, by the end of October, he could be down on the third line.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And if you look at JT Compher's production in the playoffs, this is something that Avalanche fans can, get excited about if he continues that same pace and that production. But I agree with Chris. Like it will be Newhook this year. I'm not sure. He had to get sent down to the AHL to kind of get that NHL mentality at one point. So yeah, he's very young, talented, but young. So I feel like I agree with Chris. It's going to be JT's right out of the gate. And then Newhook eventually, if it's this year, if it's next year, but he needs more conditioning.
I'm still checking daily because I still feel like Chris McFarland and Joe Sakic have something up their sleeve. I just feel like a trade is coming. I don't know for who, but I feel like something is happening to bring in somebody like they did when they brought in Nazem Kadri to shore up the second line. I feel like something is still brewing. For them to stand pat for this long is a little unlike them when they have a glaring need. So I'm still waiting for something to happen.
Well, and we can be able to get into a potential trade here in just a little bit here, because I want to actually be able to circle back here to that here myself. But
all right,
let's shift gears to the goaltending, where, as mentioned earlier, Darcy Kuemper did in fact win a Stanley Cup for the Avalanche last season. He goes out to Washington. They bring in Alexander Georgiev. You got him and Francouz. Just the confidence level going into the season with these two. Probably not high, but hey, gotta ask a question.
Not very. No, for me, this is where Kyle and I, this is where, like, we almost came to virtual blows on some episodes because, like, I'm not very confident right now. Obviously, I hope to be proven wrong, and hopefully that changes. Living where I live, I'm around a lot of Ranger fans, and we even did a crossover with John Chick, who hosts Locked On Rangers, to kind of get like what are we going to have with Georgiev.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody says the same thing. Everybody says like he has like loads of potential, and he just needs to play more.
Mm-hmm.
Like being behind Shesterkin, he's not gonna get into a constant flow of being the guy going out there game after game.
Yeah.
And to me, like, yeah, okay, that is real for goalies. It's really for any athlete to get into a flow of a game. I don't know that for some reason that doesn't do it for me. I'm like, I need more. I need to see like action. I don't know. I'm not there with him yet. This is like the quintessential in Avalanche land. It's like, in Joe we trust is like the mantra. The dude has like the Midas touch, like every move he's made, save for one. Carl Soderberg, anybody? Yeah. Or Carl Soderberg version 2.0, I should say. That didn't go so well. But other than that, like you just have to trust the guy. That's where my mind is right now. I'm not set on them. Francouz, love that guy. Love him.
Mm-hmm.
Like he has been a fantastic backup, and there is an argument that there's going to be a quarterback controversy in training camp between the two of them. You listen to Joe Sakic, he says not so much. It's going to be Georgiev, but Francouz is going to play.
Francouz has a career .921 save percentage.
He's been great.
He's
been great, but that's as a backup. That is as a backup. But there have been moments where he's needed to take over. We've had an injured goalie here and there, and he's needed to be the guy, and he's stepped up. So this is a bad thing to say. I have more confidence in him than Georgiev right now. So we shall see, but I am putting my faith in Joe, and if I'm wrong, no problem saying I am wrong and putting my complete faith in him.
Yeah.
It's two backups. Eventually, one of them are going to be a starter, which is great. We're not asking them to do too much.
Yeah.
Just honestly, that defense in front of you're not having to go out there and Carter Hart your way through the season. Like, just get out there and block. The Avalanche are really good at limiting you to at least 20 shots. I mean, stop 19. We got the rest. So it doesn't take that much to get a hot hand. If it's Georgiev, I hope it's Pavel Francouz. I've been a Frankie fan since for a long time. He got the backup job to Grubauer. He went behind Darcy Kuemper. I was hoping this was his chance to start.
Mm-hmm.
And again, he is the bridesmaid, never the bride. But I feel like this could be his chance to take this Avalanche team if he wants it. If he wants to be a backup forever, this is the chance to do it, kid.
I think Joe Sakic just had the mindset, like they had that mindset last year, like Kyle said, like the defense is great. So if we can just get like a serviceable goalie, I think they went above that, getting Darcy Kuemper, and then they win the Stanley Cup. So I think Joe Sakic might have the mindset like we can go down a peg even and get a backup. And like, I'm not there, man. I am just not there. I just feel like if you are defending a Stanley Cup, you want the goalie situation, not a question. And it is right now. There's no doubt about it.
Hey, and that's the same way, honestly, that it is right now here in St. Louis. Of course, we went out and Still maintained our position here with Jordan Bennington. He looked great at the end of the season and into the playoffs. The regular season was not so much. Husso here, he goes out and totally get it, and then the same thing here just goes with Charlie Lindgren or Charlie Sideburns, depending on how you want to classify him here as. And then of course they bring in Thomas Greiss. Thomas Greiss. For whatever reason.
That's a bad one. That's
everybody's favorite. My poster's over there of Thomas Greiss. It's off camera.
I wanted Husso. I wanted Husso. I really, if they had gotten him, we'd be having a different conversation right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So I can't say I blame you guys. I mean, I would probably rather be in your position here right now of, okay, we have two pretty good backup goaltenders, pretty decent. Let's see what happens, as opposed to we've got this vet that we don't know what we're going to get out of, and we have this aging vet that we have no confidence in whatsoever. So,
and then the alternative is a 22-year-old who's played 2 games. So,
yeah,
I don't know. They're going to have to do something about it, and we'll see if they do.
All right, so I got one more question here for you guys, at least as far as the offense here goes, or at least, the forwards here per se. So the Avs won the big Ben Meyers sweepstakes this past season. Whether or not you classify them as a big sweepstakes, I don't know. The NHL makes it out to be this whole big deal. I personally really wanted him to be able to come to St. Louis. I think he just read as a gritty St. Louis Blues blue-collar type player. I'm really interested to be able to see here with him here like in the NHL. So he comes in, joins the Avalanche, scores a goal in his first game in the NHL against the Carolina Hurricanes, has not played much, not much here at all. So I just wanted to see, do you guys know much about him here at this point? What should your fans be able to really know? Do you like what you've seen with him? Not liked, let's talk Ben Meyers here just real fast.
I mean, as far as what you've seen in college, yeah, you love that.
Yes.
For the Avs, I think he only got in like 5 games. It was
Yes.
right at the end of the season.
Yep.
Was not eligible to play in the postseason. So we knew that wasn't going to happen. So it was a small sample size. And yeah, like that, his goal was, I mean, it wasn't Cale Makar-like, because Makar's was in the playoffs. That was epic, his first ever goal. But still, like, that was a great moment. And it was, I think, I mean, even backing up to when the Avs got him, we weren't hearing a lot about that. Like the Avs really wanting, I think they were just in on him because why not? You have free reign at him. He can go anywhere he wants to go. Why would you not try to do that? Right. And I think I was maybe anticipating him staying in Minnesota, going to the Wild or somewhere in that vicinity. And I think this just speaks to what the Avs are building. I think that was, he was impressionable when it came to that. So he could be this guy that sneaks in there this year and is maybe centering a 4th line for the Avs. His ceiling is through the roof. I think we have all these guys that everybody focuses on. And his time is just so early right now that not a lot of people are expecting him to do a ton. But I think he could surprise some people as the season goes on. Don't expect much from him early on because he's green. Like he hasn't done anything yet. But once he just gets comfortable and he knows what his role is, I think you're just going to see him improve as the season goes on. And where he can help them is one place that they've really struggled: faceoffs. He's really good at faceoffs, and the Avs have been notoriously terrible at faceoffs. They're going to miss that, among other things, with Nazem Kadri being gone now. So I think you'll see a heavier workload thrown on him if he can handle it as the season goes on. But yeah, he's a guy that you're excited about. Got a great motor, plays the 200-foot game, to use that term. And that's what the Avs love in their forwards.
Yeah, definitely do not say my Ben Meyers looks like a St. Louis Blue. Get that out of your mouth. No, you were very excited to see him come to Colorado. And of course, you love to see first game, first goal, like lovely stuff. But 5 games is not a big enough sample size. And I'm glad it was just 5. Like you talked about it. Like he's a gritty, grindy player. You'd hate to see him get lost in the shuffle in the NHL. You need a little bit of AHL. You need to get seasoned. And you're going to be looking for Ben Meyers in training camp. And I would love to see him later again, third quarter of the season. I don't want him right out of the gate learning as he goes in the NHL. You see that it doesn't work for everyone. Everyone's not Cale Makar. So if he needs some time to get seasoned, because like I agree with Chris, his potential's through the roof. You don't want to waste that because of you saw he had a goal in his first game. Let's ride this and see where it goes. Give him some time. He needs the experience. And the Colorado Eagles is a great place to learn. There's a lot of veterans on that team that he can learn from about the NHL game. You don't want to waste that talent.
I will say this, though. I think getting those 5 games in is huge. Not just to see, it didn't matter how many points he scored or anything like that. If he didn't play at all, he has all of this time to just be in his own head about what it's like to be on NHL ice. That's out of the way now. He's done it. So now he can go in and focus on, okay, I know what to expect in an NHL game. I'm not going to be a deer in headlights in game 1. I've played 5 games. So I think it was very important for them and things were set for them, to heading into the playoffs. They could put him out there and just get experience. That's all it was for. And I think you're going to see him be a little bit more confident and not just be like nervous to get out and play his first game. There's going to be some nerves. There's nerves for everybody, but not as much as they would be that if he didn't play at all and he's just wondering what it's like ever since he signed with them. I think it was very imperative for them to do that.
So you guys think we could potentially see him starting the season off in the AHL? And would you prefer to see him start off in the AHL?
Well, I mean, if he earns the spot, then sure. I want to see how he's performing in the preseason. But there's guys, his college teammate, and Sampo Ranta. He's a guy that started with the Avs.
I was all excited for him.
And then he same thing the year prior. His first game was in the playoffs against Vegas. That was his first game ever. And then, coming into the following season, a lot more was expected of him. He did make the opening roster, stayed there for a few games, went down to AHL, never came back. So we want to see what he has to bring for preseason. So there's just a lot of names that could be filling in these holes. He just might be an odd man out. So I don't think it would be against not that he's not playing well. It's just there's so many good prospects that they have that are ready to take an opportunity. He would be doing it a lot earlier than expected. It's possible, though. It's definitely possible.
Yeah, I don't see him living in Loveland for 2 or 3 years, and you see the Eagles put out their roster. You're like, oh yeah, Ben Meyers. I wonder whatever happened to him. No, he's down there for a reason. And with the center position the way it is right now, with the absence of Nas, like we talked about, this would be a perfect opportunity to get in there in that training camp and make a name for yourself. If you don't, now you have that little chip on your shoulder. That spot's there. Work on it. Like, I would like, if he starts the season in the AHL, this is not a, oh goodness, what is going on with Ben Meyers moment. He needs the time. So there's no wrong answer with how they handle Ben Meyers, unless he's sitting at 2C. That's a huge jump. So if he makes the roster as a 4C, that's interesting. I don't know if he rides the entire season that way, but he does need to spend some time in Loveland.
Well, a quick aside here, my go-to hotel staying in Colorado is in Loveland, so it's a nice place, I will say.
There you go.
But shifting over to the defensive unit, which we did talk about Erik Johnson earlier, and the question really is just thoughts on this probably being his last hurrah. 34 years old, last year of his contract, $6 million, which is quite hefty.
Yeah.
Just overall thoughts on him and that.
You throw around the whole thing, like, because he won it and he finally won it, would he retire and kind of, sail off into the sunset? But, something I brought up on our show was guys that take this long to finally win a championship, they never experienced it. They've also never experienced defending that championship.
Mm-hmm.
So first I was like, yeah, you never know. Maybe they will retire, guys like that. And then when he said relatively quickly that he was coming back, it wasn't like, oh, I need a couple weeks. I think the first time he was asked, he was like, yeah, I'm definitely coming back. So I think it's because of that. I think he wants to defend a championship. $6 million helps. And I don't know. I wouldn't, like you said, he's only 34 years old. I mean, he's at the end of the season. I think it'll be this is his birthday
March,
during the year.
March, I think he's turning 35.
He'll be 35. Yeah. I wouldn't say he's even done after that. Maybe in Colorado, he could be done. And then that would be up to him. Like, do I want to go play for another franchise? You could say yes, you could say no, depending on what he's going to bring in money wise. It's not going to be anywhere near $6 million a year. So, but no, if it is his last year, period, or if it's his last year in Colorado, he's one of the all-time fan favorites.
Yeah, when it came down to on the show when we were talking about the most deserving, who gets the cup right after the captain, Eric Johnson's name was right up there. He's become one of those fan favorites where you were cheering for him to put this season together, like injury wise, like stay healthy. You wanted to see him raise the cup. And I mentioned earlier, he's a former Blue. He's Mr. Avalanche. Yeah, he's Mr. Avalanche. It's one of those that you go back and look, you're like, oh, I thought he was an Avalanche this whole time. Like that's he's made that kind of legacy here in Colorado. And when you see how he's reacted carrying the cup and always boosting the team, like there's not really anything negative you could say about his time in Colorado. He has become Mr. Avalanche and a huge fan favorite.
Yeah, no, and that makes sense. I mean, everybody in St. Louis always really loved him, not necessarily like his whole off ice antics and whatnot. I mean, but that's a guy who's at the time he was like 19, 20, he was super, super young at that point. And sometimes you just can really hit the reset button. I mean, not to be able to go back a long time, but shoot, I mean, it was a long time ago, that Brett Hull needed a reset. Now, I mean, he was still putting up all the points, but he needed a reset. He was partying way too much and moved to St. Louis. And I mean, he just got that reset. And
exactly,
Blues are the big benefit factors for that. I mean, never getting the cup with him, but that was a huge thing here.
So true.
Sam Gerard. Let's touch base here with him really fast because I love Sam Gerard. I think he's a fantastic forward, but as we have heard a couple different times here, the salary cap is a huge thing, and it will be an even bigger factor here next season here with McKinnon's contract here coming up. But now we've also kind of started to seeing this logjam here on the back end. So could Borum Byram be a big purpose, just a huge benefactor to push a guy like Gerard out, and using Gerard as a member and a key piece to try and increase and reinforce the center position? If there's struggles here in goaltending, about to increase goaltending, Kyle, you are like chomping at the bit to go right now. So I want you to be able to say here first.
Oh, Mike. See, that's why you're a Blues fan, because you said you like Sam Gerard. You'd make a terrible Avalanche fan.
Oh, come on. He'd make a great Avalanche fan.
I like what I've seen out of him. I don't watch him very much,
awesome.
but in the stuff I have seen, I like.
There's nothing like I love Sammy G and what he brings, but when it comes to the odd man out, when we were trying to bring back Nas, who are we going to trade away to make some cap room? Sammy G. You go down that roster, you got to find. I mean, yes, last year was easily his worst year that he's had, but he has so much potential. I love when he's fully healthy and playing Sammy G hockey. I love what he does on the ice. So for him to be pushed out, there is a loud contingency of the fan base that would love that. And to give other players on the Avalanche a chance to take that position. But I personally love Sammy G, and I don't kind of want him to go anywhere.
Not gonna happen. He's not getting traded. And I think from what you heard, they were gonna have to move money around. There was just no way around it if they wanted to keep Nazem Kadri. And the two names that kept thrown out there were JT Comfort and Sam Gerard. And I think that was a big reason why they did not sign Nazem Kadri, because they're not interested in doing that. They're not. I don't know if they were interested in trading JT Comfort. Pretty confident they were not interested in trading Sam Gerard. They really love him, and they like his game. He had a down year. There's no way around that. Like, he didn't perform all that great. He had some moments, but I think for the most part, this will probably be the worst season that he's ever had. And that's even saying, like, it wasn't atrocious, but people were jumping off of the Sammy G bandwagon so quick, and it didn't make a lot of sense to me why they would do that. Yeah, if you want to say, like, guy's not playing well, say that. To want to get rid of him, all of that, the whole trading Sammy G is coming from Twitter and people who do podcasts. I don't think people in the front office really had any desire to move him. And so, like, it's the insatiable need of fans. And what have you done for me lately? Because the previous year, and I bring this up all the time because you can't forget it, in the year before last, Cale Makar was injured for a while. Sam Gerard took over. Took over that Avalanche defense. He was an alternate captain for a lot of those games. He was, and I remember reading on the score on Yahoo, on the score, they at that point in time, they had ranked who was the Norris, like the top 5. He was number 1.
Oh man!
Like, and we just forget all that stuff because he's playing bad. And then he had an off year. And then what happened in like March or early April? He has surgery done. Yeah, that ended he came back in the playoffs and then got hurt in the playoffs. Right. But was he playing injured all? So trying to like force through it. There's a possibility there. I think people were way too quick to want to give up on Sam Gerard, and that's a stupid thing to do because he's a really good player.
Nope,
well,
I completely agree.
Continuing with the defensive unit, just like, I guess the floor and ceiling of Makar, and why is it like 80-point floor, 120-point ceiling? I feel like that's probably about right, wouldn't you think?
Ooh. What do you think, Kyle?
You can't honestly say that's out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah.
Like, it's on the show, me and Chris, we always, when we were talking about Cale Makar, we reference him as a positionless player. He could be a forward, he could play defense, and he could play both well. You put him in pads, he would be a really good goalie. He's our backup goalie to Georgiev and Francouz. But like Cale Makar,
throw him a 2-pad stack.
Easy.
And what it is, and a point I bring up all the time, Cale Makar and the level of his talent, when it's not compared to his peers, like he's not compared to Roman Josi, it's always compared to legends of the past and Hall of Famers. You never hear about how he does things like, no, it's always comparing them to legendary players, because Cale Makar is generational. He's not just good, he's generational.
Right.
I'll say this, like last year obviously was his coming out party and really, became a household name. Let's see what he can follow it up with. Now people know him. He's not going to, coming up and know who's this guy anymore. Now people are game planning for him. So how does he respond to that? I think, he's going to get his, what I mean? He's that talented. I've never seen a guy skate like him. Like it's just so effortless, but so powerful. And I keep saying, like, I don't think he has ankles. The way that he can get so low on his blades and not just lose it and just skid out. I don't know how he does it. But he just makes it look so simple. And that's what annoys me, because like, it's so difficult for everybody else. And he makes it look like he's been doing it for, since he was like 2 years old, because he probably has.
Right.
He's fun to watch. He's exciting to watch. I say all the time, I've kind of given up having like quote unquote like favorite players, just because like look, Nazem Kadri, like Kyle is a huge Nazem Kadri fan. People move on. There's very little loyalty in sports anymore, so I'm a fan of a team and I root for the players on the team. Cale Makar is as close to a favorite player as I can have, because he's so fun to watch, and it's just like, what's he going to do next? He's awesome.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
I love it. Okay, 2 really quick yes nos, and I want to be able to just real quick.
All right.
Do the Avs win the Central?
Yes.
Yes, but it's not going to be easy. I just think that.
Okay. Do the Avs win the Stanley Cup?
I can only say one word on that, man.
Yes.
I got it. Like, to be brutally honest, I don't think they do. I don't think they're as good as last year. I think they could make a run for it, but I don't think they do.
Okay. So for the sake of time here, really fast. So Chris, what prevents them?
Depth. I don't think they're as deep as they were last year, and the goaltending. It's a huge question mark. If they can get, good goaltending,
yep,
there's a possibility. And if the depth works out, sure, there's those 2 things, and those are like, you have to go on your question marks, and those are the question marks for the Avs. We'll see. I mean, they have superstars. The superstars are going to perform. Are they enough to carry them all the way through? You need everybody on a team to do it, not just the superstars. And I think it's going to be a struggle for the Avs.
Makes sense. Kyle?
The West is not the issue. The East will be the issue for anybody in the Stanley Cup. The East is starting to scare me a little bit.
Yeah, they're getting real loaded up with talent. And I've said for the longest time, and it may be a very, very biased opinion. I don't know what you're going to say. The West has always been the gritty, grinded out, heavy hitting, heavy checking kind of league, where then you look at the East and it's been very fast and skill and finesse. And it seems like that it's kind of doing a good job of just blending itself back together here at this point. And it seems a lot of skilled players are still heading towards the East, but there's still the division of death going straight down the Central, and it almost seems like all roads lead through the Central Division. So it'll be interesting.
As far as the division goes, it's St. Louis is going to be right there, if you ask me. I don't think the Avs are going to run away with that, and I think it's going to be right up until the final week. And then once you get in the playoffs, you never know. But it's just so hard to win it once. To win it twice is just that much more difficult. I mean, the Avs have it in their back pocket, so they always can say, hey, we've done it. We can do it again. But it's just so difficult to do. And if everybody was back, if Kadri was back, I think he's that much of a difference maker. If Kadri was back, I probably would be leaning towards, they have as much of a chance to repeat. The fact that he's not there and they haven't really replaced it, I think it's going to be tough. It's going to be very difficult.
There's that personality factor that Kadri also brings, and it was the same thing like when the Blues won the Cup, that they had Maroon. There was that in your face X factor that he brought that helped the Blues say, okay, yeah, we've got this. We've got it. So, and I think, Kadri does the same thing, whether it is, chirping a little bit, whether it's just going hard to the net. And I mean, not literal to be able to bring up, between Blues and Avs fans. Hey, I still said it, and we've said here on the podcast, I think it was a clean play. We thought it was a clean play, and there was no hard opinions.
It's just unfortunate.
Facts. So,
I can't believe Kelly Rosen did that. That was crazy.
It's kind of a hard subject to take a stance on from our side of things, but we have gone one way over the other. Real quick, my final thing: who else do you view as a major threat in the Central Division? And then, I guess, look at the other side with the Pacific. Like, who else do you view as a major threat to the Avalanche?
In the Central, we did this the other day. We kind of went down the Central. I like what Nashville's done doing. I think they can surprise some people. Yeah, I'm not a fan. But I do. I think it's the Avs and the Blues. And then you would think like, I think a lot of people just want to throw Minnesota in the third spot.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think the odds are maybe higher than not that they would, but I don't know. I think Nashville is a pretty good team. And when you have a great goalie, you're always in it.
Yeah.
And then the Pacific,
Edmonton.
Yeah, Pacific is rough, man. I think Edmonton's the kind of
Calgary. Calgary is one of those teams you really don't know what you're going to get. Their top six is really good. I think people probably aren't going to talk about how good their top six is. Losing Gaudreau and Kachuk, you have a general manager there in Tree Living who's got to make these types of moves. That's why you give Kadri 7 years to get that deal done. That's why you probably overpay Huberdeau. But I mean, Vegas too is another team. I don't know what they're going to be.
Oh, don't talk. I can't stand Vegas.
I mean, Vegas
cannot stand
the way
Vegas.
that they manage that team is absurd,
Horrible.
and everybody knows that.
Yeah, and Calgary, I think Calgary is a good team, but a lot of new faces there. We don't know if it's going to mesh well together. So we think that it will. It might take a little while to get going, but I think Calgary will be fine. Yeah, so Calgary, Edmonton, and then everybody else.
Out of the Central, it's going to be Avs and Blues. We're gonna hate each other by the end of the year. Let's get used to it. There's going to be kind of a drop off after that. It's going to be Avs, Blues, and I'm not sold on the Wild yet, and I view Nashville and Minnesota the same way. So jumble those two, Avs and Blues. I think that's what it's going to be in the Central. Pacific. I was hearing everybody's conversations about the Pacific. I am starting to believe in this Ducks team. I'm starting to believe that they're no, not him.
Yeah, okay.
That has nothing to do with him. There's a reason Klimberg went over there. They're selling something that people are buying into.
They're selling money.
I feel like this Ducks team is everybody's going to view them as the Ducks, and they're going to go in there and break hearts this year. They were doing that a little bit last year, and I feel like they could make some noise. I've not sold on Calgary yet because that's still a team of a lot of ego with a coach that is born and bred in ego. So I don't know how that's going to work. Edmonton, we know what that team is, and nothing has changed. So they expect the same result. That's the definition of insanity. So Edmonton's Edmonton. Calgary, I don't know if that team looks the same come trade deadline. Look out for the Ducks.
No,
that's fair.
The question I've been throwing around in the Central, does Chicago finish lower than Arizona?
Yeah, I mean,
I think they could.
that Chicago team is going to be historically bad. I think
they could. I think Arizona, just nothing is expected of them. They can go out in a 5,000 seat arena and just play loose and win some games. Chicago,
and hard
you play for Chicago, you're always under pressure.
Yeah,
I think it could happen.
Arizona has like a bit of a roster where at least they're somewhat hard to play against. Like they have a little bit of sandpaper on the bottom six. They got Cassian in there. They got a bunch of terrible contracts for guys who can't really play anymore, but they could like act like they're hard to play against, I guess. But it's going to be pretty disastrous at the bottom of the Central. I also wonder what Dallas is like. I
can't figure them out
because Ottinger, it's like he's really
awesome.
asking a lot of a goaltender with him, and that's like kind of what the Ducks have been doing with Gibson for a lot of years. And Dallas is probably a team that could finish third. They could probably finish, third to last because nobody's going to be worse than Arizona or Chicago. But Dallas is kind of the same team every year.
So what do you think? And then the big names with Chicago come trade deadline are going to be Kane and Taves.
Mm-hmm.
You guys in the mix for them?
I got to think that the Rangers are going to make a huge play for Patrick Kane this season. There's got to be somebody that's going to do that. And I feel like they're a good team to do that. He's from Buffalo. I know that's not really close to Manhattan, but general vicinity. He's not going to Buffalo, I wouldn't think. But
I just want him to go to Edmonton. I want it just for the chaos that it would cause. Just because.
Are they a team getting thrown around?
They are.
Oh wow.
They are.
Evander Kane and Patrick Kane
on the same line with Connor McDavid.
Yeah, that would.
Ooh.
Yeah, nobody
Yep.
wants to see that.
Yeah, I loved playing NHL 2K6 too.
That's awesome. Guys, I just wanted to thank you guys here so much for being able to come on. It's great being able to connect here with you both. Again, tell the fans, where can they be able to find you guys? Twitter, you guys have the Locked On Network, let's just, share where you guys here are at just one more time.
You follow the show on Twitter, LOPN_Avalanche, and our YouTube channel as well. Just search Locked On Avalanche and subscribe to that. And Kyle has his own Twitter handle, which is right behind him on that jersey.
Oh, yeah, it sure is. At Shaggy Von Doom.
That's his Twitter.
Shaggy Von Doom. I'm staring at that. I'm like, Shaggy. I couldn't make out that last little bit here of it.
There it is.
Very, very good. Very good. So, guys, I'm looking forward here to the regular season. We'll be able to connect up here again before,
Definitely.
after, whenever here throughout the season, just kind of check in on each other. And, if there's some tough injuries, maybe be able to console one another.
if it's the Avalanche, injuries are going to happen. So
yes,
we're used to it.
Absolutely. So again, guys, thank you so much here for being able to come on. Great to be able to connect here with you guys.
Anytime.